that. Okay. There has been some recruiting staff and analyst comings and goings. So we definitely wanted to cover this. This is a very recruiting heavy show. A lot of you have asked for that. Here we go. We're, the people request and we deliver. So Christina DeRuyter, who has been the on-campus recruiting director for the last few years for Michigan, it was announced, I believe, yesterday that she is joining some of the staff who are going to the Los Angeles Chargers to join Harbaugh. In what position? I didn't see that. If somebody knows what position that she's taking at the Chargers, maybe I think it's director of something. So let us know about that. But but that's on the one side, and then I'll get your reactions once I do this next one. So on the one side, you got Christina DeRuyter leaving, but then on the other side, 7 new recruiting analysts, and that's of course in addition to all the stuff we just mentioned at the beginning of the show that we talked about, that we were very excited about. There's also 7 new recruiting analysts, including some of these that you listed on the screen. So TJ, I'll start with you as kind of the recruiting, the person who really follows this stuff more than I do by a lot. What do you think about these moves on both directions? Do you think it's a net positive for Michigan, a net what do you think about these?
Well, I mean, losing Christina DeRuyter, that's a loss. I mean, she was well-liked. She was very good at her job. She was a top performer. This is why, again, Harbaugh poached her. Unfortunately, he's still poaching. That to stop. So, yeah, this is a loss. That sucks. But let's talk about the positive, because we can't change the past. It is what it is. We got to move forward. The good news is we just added 7 new analysts to the recruiting department, which is huge. The reason why that's huge is because, one, it shows a focus of resources going to recruiting. They obviously want to cast a wider net. A lot of these hires are lower level hires, so it's going to be more about like film observations, help unearth little gemstones like a Colson Loveland. And then a little bit of like on-campus activity in terms of hosting and stuff like that. But it's still good to expand the recruiting department. Michigan used to have a very small recruiting department. This is now getting closer to the level of a Texas department. Some of the larger recruiting departments, I mean, we're not quite there yet in terms of we need a higher level of we need to add a couple higher positions where they have a greater network or reach in local areas. Like you need a guy in Florida, you need a guy in LA, you need like a guy that has an in, kind of like Courtney Morgan was for the West Coast, who helped us get Mason Graham, for example. And now Courtney Morgan's was at Washington. He followed Kalen DeBoer to Alabama. So a guy like that, more of those types would be great. But any addition to the recruiting department is a positive. It just shows a focus that they want to improve, they want to get better, and they're not cutting corners. So great additions in the sense of these should be value added additions, and just more positive news in that sense. Yeah,
turnover on the negative side is not a good thing. So we're going to tell you like it is, and I don't know. I guess Harbaugh is creating new positions like the strength and conditioning, sort of upgrade on the NFL side. So I don't like this trickle either. It's getting annoying after a while where it's we're well into the off season, middle of the off season, almost less than 100 days away now, and we're still losing staff to Harbaugh. So that's not good. New recruiting analyst, the quantity is good. It's really hard to kind of tell what's going to end up happening. TJ, I'd love for you to explain the Colston Loveland story real quick and just explain, what these people do, and when it's a success like Colston Loveland.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
What is that positive outcome? How do you find those diamonds in the rough, and how does that work?
Yeah, so essentially what happens is Michigan is willing to look in places a lot of schools won't, because obviously they had a restricted philosophy in terms of NIL and all so their recruiting departments were a lot smaller. So what they would do is they'd focus in areas a lot of schools were not focusing. Like if you remember, we used to be very strong in the Northeast. We get like we would get like Kwity Paye or the wide receiver who just the NFL, not Roman Wilson, but who's the other wide receiver?
Oh, Nico Collins.
No, the one who got drafted this year.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of the.
Shit, why was
he
my
just got a crap load of money?
He's from like Massachusetts.
Roman Wilson.
No, the other one.
Cornelius
Johnson. Yeah, Cornelius Johnson from Massachusetts.
Okay. Gus Johnson, the other. So
Cornelius.
Yeah. So, anyways, the point being is what they do is they review the prospect tapes similar to what the NFL does for prospects. They comb every area, and then they identify. They literally have an eye for talent. They identify talent because a lot of these kids, specifically a Colson Loveland, he can't get to an Under Armour camp or an Adidas camp or a Nike camp, right? Which is where a lot of these prospects get uncovered or seen by these scouts, and then they get put into these scouting networks or like a 247 or an On3, and they get ranked right by evaluators. And then a lot of schools, believe it or not, this is true, they look at these damn rankings and they will identify players and then they will look at their tape when they look at their rankings. Well, Michigan has a different approach. They don't give a shit about rankings. They just watch tape. And then Jay Harbaugh was the catalyst on the Colson Loveland thing, and he basically formed a relationship and built it up, and he landed Colson Loveland. And guess what? They knew Colson Loveland was special. Like this was like Jay Harbaugh knew this from the beginning, and he has been special, and he's going to be the best tight end in the nation this year. Just like, and another one was Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant was another one they unearthed. Mason Graham, but I'll give credit to Courtney Morgan. Courtney Morgan was a major reason why we landed Mason Graham. Players like a Mike Sanders, so that happened more organically with a position switch, and not only that, he just developed and fit into the defense. He wasn't necessarily on a Colson Loveland level, but a big one could be a Marion Walker, guys. If a Marion Walker hits, he has the athletic profile to be special. Yep.
Him or I think we're going back and forth between him or Fred Moore in the X position, but we'll get back to that topic in a bit. But Tom has given us $5. Thank you for that, and hopefully that opens the floodgate. If you want your comment or question up at the top, there's too much going on for us to get to everybody's comment or question without super chat. So I'm just letting you know right now, too many people. So let's just go ahead and super chat if you want your comment or question up. Does Ryan Day switch to the hokey pokey dance before the games, or I'm a little teapot? Which one do we think Ryan Day prefers?
I'm a believer. I'm a little teapot. He seems like the I'm a little teapot type. It seems to fit him. I would bet strongly that is the answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go teapot to directly answer this question, but at a higher level, I'd just like to say that once again, for the fourth year in a row, Ryan Day, OSU, the team, and OSU, the OSU fans appear to be underestimating Michigan. So I mean, it's unbelievable to me that this is happening. If somebody can tell me the days, I thought I had it memorized. 16 something, approaching 1,700 days since OSU has beaten Michigan. I would think every single day their focus is to beat Michigan, and they have respect for Michigan. But it seems like it must be Connor Stallions, or it must be, I think the first year it was the weather. Then it was, excuse after excuse of why they lost that didn't actually have to do with Michigan. So the team beating the team at the line of scrimmage, being more physical, etc. Ryan Day throws 51% of the time. Michigan, runs 51% of the time. Michigan runs 61% of the time. Alabama in the high-flying SEC runs 62% of the time. It's different styles. OSU can beat teams throughout the year, and then Michigan has a totally different look. And I think we are, things could change. Maybe they do take Michigan seriously. My projection here is that Michigan will probably start off at about number 10. If they beat Texas, they'll be number 2 or 3, somewhere in there. And maybe that'll get OSU fans' attention, if and when they beat Texas. I'll end it right there. So,
all right. Well, yeah. So I think you guys covered this one well. I think given that he does the penguin dance with his players, I don't know. I think it's maybe hokey pokey is a little bit more his mentality, because he really goes for it. In those pregame pump ups. So I don't know, man. But thank you, Tom, for your $5. We really appreciate that. A few housekeepings before we finish up with recruiting. We do want to remind everybody, and thank you, Moose, for reminding everybody to check the merch store out. So we have so many products on the Michigan section, as well as the Voice of College Football section, where you can cheers to Michigan, where you can, get a if your pet's thirsty and they're a Michigan fan, you can get a Voice of College Football Michigan Pet Bowl, plus 3 whole pages of merch. Just because we're running on time, I'm not going to show everything this time, but check it out. Click the link. Check it out for yourself. Go pick up some merch. It's almost Father's Day. So if you have a dad that that's a college football fan and might benefit from some Voice of College Football stuff, just let us know. And hit that link. And then also, if you have a product, a service, a business, or a personal brand, consider sponsoring the Voice of College Football, the Michigan channel at the Voice of College Football, or heck, even an individual show if you want to sponsor show for show. Email MarkRogersTV@gmail.com to learn how sponsorships at the Voice of College Football can benefit you. Okay. TJ, we've got some recruiting news. Obviously, 3 players that we have listed here have their official visit here this weekend, I believe. The only one who doesn't is Watts. So I want to hear your take on Utu, Jones, Winston, and Watts, and kind of why you're thinking those are some ones to really keep an eye on as potential pickups.
Yeah, so official visit season is upon us. This is a major time period for recruiting. Momentum should pick up. This is going to be the opening weekend for Michigan. The players that I have here, and I've stressed this from the beginning, I will only talk about players worth your time. Okay, I'm not going to mention other players that I do not feel are even in the realm of feasibility. These are players that Michigan is in a good position in heading into official visit season. With the recent news of guaranteed contract negotiations occurring, should only help those positions. And the first player I want to talk about, and one that I feel best about, is Douglas Utu. Okay, Douglas Utu is from Nevada, went to Bishop Gorman. He's ranked 66th in the nation. He's a 4-star, and he is the type of player, and this is the Michigan special here, he hates the recruiting process. And we love players who hate the recruiting process, because if you hate the recruiting process, that typically means you're a Michigan fit and you don't care about all that glitzy glamour bullshit. And that's the type of hard-nosed player we like, because those types of players like to beat up on those softer types down south. So Douglas Utu is a Michigan type of player, exciting. The competitors for Douglas Utu are Alabama, USC, and Washington. Now, Washington only because of geographic location. USC and Alabama would be the 2 teams I would be obviously paying closest attention to. They are NIL players, but guess what? So are we. So we will now see what our NIL strategy can pull us. This is a prospect that I would highly recommend paying close attention to, because if we can pull him, that is a great sign of obviously the NIL strategy at play. Another player I want to hit on is Marco Jones. I love Marco Jones. We have Nate Marshall. He visited at the spring game with Marco Jones. They are friends. They get along. His dad loves Michigan. His dad is a former Colorado Buffalo player. His dad's a really cool dude. I've actually had conversations with his dad, and I'm extremely excited about this recruitment. And I really hope Michigan gets him because he's not only a good player, but he is without doubt a culture fit. His mind is in the right place. He's about development. NIL is not the first thing that comes that's not the priority for him. The priority for him is development and becoming a better player on the field and also winning. He has his head in the right place. I'm excited about it. He's visiting this weekend. Pay attention to Marco Jones. And then the other player who has an official visit this weekend is Keona Winston, safety out of, let's see, he is out of the DC area. This player here, if we could land Keona Winston, this would be the indicator that I need personally, that the NIL strategy is extremely healthy. It's extremely competitive because right now our competition for him is Penn State and North Carolina. I'm less concerned about North Carolina, more concerned about Penn State. And one of the reasons why I'm concerned about Penn State, well, two reasons. Geographically speaking, DC and Penn State are far closer. And then you have the aspect of his cousin is currently at Penn State, a very good player. But the one positive in that regard is his cousin will not be there in 2025 when he is on campus. So to me, that doesn't mean he's a lock to Penn State. Apparently, Michigan, I would argue it's a Penn State-Michigan battle, but North Carolina is in the picture. This safety here is an extremely good player. He's exactly the type of safety. I believe he's the number one safety on Michigan's board. I don't have that confirmed, but I do think that's the case. Extremely good player. If anyone wants to look at a huddle tape, that's a huddle tape to watch. You might fall in love with him, so I will advise discretion, maybe not to get too attached too soon because recruiting is fluid. And then the last player I want to hit on is Hardy Watts. Now, his official visit is not until June 21st. So you may be asking, why are you bringing up Hardy Watts? Well, the reason I'm bringing up Hardy Watts is Michigan's offensive line board is very selective. They feel very good about the bucket of players that they are targeting for this recruiting cycle, and Hardy Watts is one of them. Things are trending very well with Hardy Watts. This is a player I would say is trending heavy to Michigan. No guarantees. Again, I still need to see how this is our first OV weekend. I want to hear what comes out of this weekend before I'm not locking it in. I'll just say that for anyone who's a new viewer, I lock players in. I'm basically batting 1,000 right now. When I do such a thing, I will not do that unless I am damn near close to sure it's happening. And sometimes I have that information before others. But sometimes I don't. But we'll see. I would highly recommend keeping your eye on these four players. They are the must-know They are the must-know players for the weekend.
Uh-oh.
I can't hear you, Ferris.
Unmute yourself.
I got it. Yeah. Sorry. First of all, tremendous work, TJ. This is so awesome. I love seeing this kind of stuff, and I completely can relate to your, don't get attached because it is sad when you do get attached and they don't end up coming to
Marquise Davis. Come home.
Yeah.
So, but my question is, actually, I have two quick questions. One question has to do with the timing of this versus all this news that came out.
Right.
Is there another wave of players coming?
No, I'm not going to say there's another wave of players coming, but guess what? Some of these visits have been pushed to this weekend. And some people are speculating that is it strategic to try and get the first jab at the official visit because now we have a new NIL approach? Because some of these players are big hitters, bro. These are class forming players. These are the type of players that really build momentum to a class. And I'd argue everyone is a cornerstone player. I would say Hardy Watts is a high level player. So I would say the first three on that list are cornerstone players. You can really build your class around them. Hardy Watts is what you would call a high level player who would only just I would say make the class even better. And I feel very good about Hardy Watts right now, but I can't lock it in just yet.
Okay. The other quick question has to do with position groups. You know, we got a comment saying, "Hey, we should become offensive line you know, something to that effect." Not here, but in a different video. And then I said, "Well, so we're not going to play wide receivers the same amount as offensive linemen?" And they said, "No, we need to be offensive line you." So, do you think the money coming from Michigan could vary by position starting in 25? Obviously, that's next year, right? So 25 for this recruiting class.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Position group.
The money coming to Michigan.
The money could vary by position group.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have that intel. I don't know. I do not know their strategy on how they're going to implement revenue sharing. I do not know if a select position group is going to get more focus or allocation of funds. It's all new. I mean, this news, what the settlement was, 1 week ago. I mean, I would bet Michigan's like strategy philosophy itself is not even cemented. I think what they have is a framework. Actually, I know they have a framework. There is a framework. They've actually been preparing this. They have felt this was going to happen. There was a belief this would actually happen in about another month. But they got word. There was word about 2 weeks ago that this could happen within a couple weeks, and it happened last week. So it happened even quicker than what was expected. So we do not know. There's a lot of unknown because it's so new. And there's also a lot of gray areas still to be uncovered. So we'll see. I don't know the current approach just yet.
And I did look up Utu because he was one that I continued to see mentioned on a bunch of places as like somebody, maybe because his official's coming up so soon. But he took an official beginning of May to Washington, and it looks to me like those are the only two that I see, at least recently, that he's taken. So are you thinking that with the OV coming up for Utu in a couple of days, that they'll be able to snag him if he hasn't yet, given the fact that he didn't go like, hell yeah, let's go to Washington, and he waited for the official visit here, that's a good sign?
Sure. I mean, a lot of kids, so I mean, it just depends on the recruits. Some kids will close it down, but some kids will take all their official visits. I mean, but here's the thing. Here's what we do know. Utu does not like the recruiting process. He may be a kid who wants to close it down. But the thing about Michigan is, but this was under the Harbaugh era, they did not push to close players. Notre Dame pushes to close players, and they have a no-visit policy. So if you commit to Notre Dame, much like Clemson, you are not allowed to visit any other programs. Ohio State, excellent at closing on players. Michigan takes the approach of, go look around and make sure that Michigan's where you want to be. We have a less aggressive approach, which I don't like, but it is what it is. It's their approach. Now, I don't know if that's Sharon's approach though. This is his first official visit season, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm going to learn a lot. We're all going to learn a lot. This is new territory for all of us in terms of the Sharon Moore era and recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, forensically, forensically, it'll be interesting to kind of look back and see what happened this summer, this fall, et cetera, for how Sharon is different. And is it Sharon Moore, or is it the new NIL / pay to play system?
Yeah. We shall see. I think there's, I mean, from day one, I mean, the initial intel that we were getting, and TJ, I think you were on the first show that, when it was announced that, Sharon Moore was planning to have a more aggressive recruiting approach than Harbaugh, right? And that was like something early that was reported out that he I think he even said it, like he wanted to attack and have that attacking mentality for recruits. So, so I think that, all of these moves that are being made, dovetail pretty perfectly into that.